$40 an hour. That is the only reason I am recording this. That is the only reason I am sitting in a booth that smells like stale popcorn and ammonia, staring at a wall of static-filled monitors while my heart hammers against my ribs like a trapped bird. You need to understand the context before I read you the note. You need to understand that I am not a brave man. I am not a ghost hunter. I am just a guy with a mountain of credit card debt and an eviction notice stapled to his front door. When you are that desperate, you stop asking questions. You stop asking why a security job at a mall that has been closed since 2004 pays double the market rate. You stop asking why the application process was nothing more than a phone call and a pulse check. You just sign the NDA, grab the flashlight, and pray that the rumors are just local folklore. The Rolling Acres Mall sits on the edge of town, right where the suburbs bleed into the overgrown woods. It is a massive, concrete monolith surrounded by a cracked asphalt ocean. Weeds shoot up through the parking lot like grasping fingers. In the daylight, it is just an eyesore, a monument to failed capitalism. But at night, the place looks like a tomb. The streetlights out here were disabled years ago to save money, so the building looms out of the darkness, a black shape against a black sky. I met the supervisor, a twitchy little man named Mr. Henderson, at the employee entrance around 9 p.m. He didn't look me in the eye, not once. He was sweating, despite the chill in the October air. He kept checking his watch, his eyes darting toward the glass doors of the entrance every time the wind rattled the panes. "Here are the keys," he said, shoving a heavy brass ring into my hand. "The master key opens everything, but don't open everything. Just the booth. Stay in the booth." I asked him about the patrol route. Standard security gigs usually require you to tap checkpoints every hour to prove you are not sleeping. Henderson actually laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "No patrols," he said. "Not unless you have to. Just watch the cameras. If you see looters, do not engage. Call the police." But he paused, and for the first time he looked at me. His eyes were bloodshot, rimmed with dark circles that looked like bruises. "But if you see anything else, do not call the police. They won't come anyway." Before I could ask him what the hell that meant, he was backing away toward his car. He told me the shift ends at 6 a.m. sharp. He told me not to leave the booth before then, no matter what I heard. And then he said the thing that has been bouncing around my skull for the last 3 hours. "Read the note on the desk," he said. "Read it twice. Follow it exactly. Good luck." Then he peeled out of the parking lot like the devil himself was riding shotgun. So, here I am. The security office is located near the old food court. It is a small glass-walled box. From where I am sitting, I can look out and see the dusty tables, the overturned chairs, and the faded signage of a Taco Bell and a Sbarro. It is quiet. Not the quiet of a library, but the heavy, pressurized silence of a place that is holding its breath. The air is cold and still. Every now and then, the ventilation system groans, a sound that echoes through the empty corridors like a dying whale. I spent the first 20 minutes just trying to get the heater working. It rattled to life, spitting out dust and lukewarm air. Then I turned my attention to the desk. It was a metal tanker desk, specifically designed to be uncomfortable. In the center, sitting squarely on top of the blotter, was a sheet of yellow legal paper. It wasn't typed, it was handwritten. The handwriting was erratic, sharp angles, heavy pressure. The ink had bled through to the other side. It looked like it had been written by someone whose hand was shaking uncontrollably. I am going to read it to you now. I am recording this so that if they find this phone, someone will know I wasn't crazy. Someone will know I followed the protocol. The note is titled, "Site-Specific Protocols for the Night Watch." Rule 1. Upon entering the booth, lock the door. Do not unlock it for anyone. It does not matter if you hear a police officer, a firefighter, or your own mother screaming for help outside the glass. The glass is bulletproof. It is soundproof. If you hear them, it is because they are already inside your head. Keep the door locked until the sun hits the skylight in the main atrium. Rule 2. You have 6 monitors. Monitor 4 shows the interior of the JCPenney anchor store. The camera is old and the feed is black and white. At some point between midnight and 3 a.m., you will notice that the mannequins in the window display have changed positions. This is normal. Do not stare at them. If you stare at them, they will notice you watching. If monitor 4 goes to static, turn it off immediately. Do not turn it back on for the rest of the shift. If you leave it on, the static will start to make shapes. You do not want to see the shapes. Rule 3. The mall music system was disconnected in 2004. However, the wiring in the ceiling is old and acts as a receiver for stray radio frequencies. Sometimes you will hear music drifting down from the second floor. If you hear generic elevator music or soft jazz, you are safe. Ignore it. If you hear We Are the World or any Christmas music, hide under the desk. Do not come out until the music stops. If you hear a crying baby, put on the noise-canceling headphones provided in the left drawer. Do not take them off until you are sure the crying has stopped. If you listen to the crying for more than a minute, you will start to recognize the voice. It will sound like someone you know. Do not listen. Rule 4. Every hour, on the hour, do a visuals check of the food court. Look at the Sbarro counter. There is a cardboard cutout of a chef holding a pizza. If the chef is smiling, you are fine. If the chef is frowning, look away and count to 10. If the chef is missing, you have exactly 30 seconds to turn off the lights in the security booth and sit in total darkness. Hold your breath. Something is walking past the booth. It cannot see you if the lights are off, but it can smell your fear. It smells like copper and ozone. Wait for the smell to pass before turning the lights back on. Rule 5. This is the most important rule. At some point, usually around 4 a.m., the phone on the desk will ring. It is an internal landline. It is not connected to the outside world. Do not answer it. Let it ring. It will ring for exactly 1 minute. If you answer it, the person on the other end will ask you for permission to enter. They will sound polite. They will sound like Mr. Henderson. If you speak, if you say anything at all, you have invited them in. The locks on the door will not hold if they are invited. Let it ring. There is a scribbled postscript at the bottom of the page. It is written in a different pen, the letters jagged and rushed. It says, "If you see a woman in a red dress standing by the fountain, do not look at her face. She has no face. She is looking for a face. Do not let her take yours." I put the paper down. My hands were trembling. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to crumple the note up and throw it in the trash. This had to be a hazing ritual, a joke for the new guy, just like sending the apprentice to find the board stretcher or the headlight fluid. But then I looked up at the monitors. Monitor 4, the JCPenney entrance. There are 3 mannequins in the display window, a man, a woman, and a child. They are wearing faded 90s fashion. When I sat down an hour ago, the male mannequin was facing the entrance, his plastic arm extended as if he were waving. I am looking at the monitor now. The male mannequin is facing the camera. His arm is down at his side. And even though the feed is grainy, even though the resolution is garbage, I swear to God his head is tilted. Like he is curious. Like he is looking right through the lens, down the wire, and into this screen. I reached out to turn off the monitor, just like the rule said, but my hand froze. The phone is ringing. I am looking at the clock. It is not 4 a.m. It is only midnight. The rules said 4 a.m. Why is it ringing now? The shrill, mechanical trill is vibrating through the metal desk. It is so loud in the silence. It sounds like a scream. I am staring at the phone. It is a beige, rotary hunk of plastic from the 80s. The red light is flashing. Ring, ring, ring. I am not going to answer it. I am going to follow the rules. I need this money. I need to pay rent. I can do this. It is just a prank. It is just some kids messing with the lines. But then I hear it, through the glass, through the soundproof glass. Music. It is coming from the atrium. It is echoing off the tile floors and the high ceilings. It is faint, distorted, warbling like a tape that has been left in the sun too long. It is Mariah Carey. All I want for Christmas is you. The blood has drained from my face. I am looking at the note again. Rule 3. If you hear Christmas music, hide under the desk. The phone is still ringing. The mannequin is staring at me, and the music is getting louder. It sounds like it is getting closer to the booth. I am grabbing the phone to record this. I am going under the desk. If anyone finds this recording, please tell my mom I am sorry. Tell her I tried to be responsible. Tell her I just wanted to get paid. I am going under now. The music is right outside the door. Wait, the chef, the cardboard chef at the Sparrow. I can see it from the floor. He is not smiling. He is not frowning. He is gone. The lights. I forgot to turn off the lights. I have to reach up. I have to hit the switch. But the music is so loud, and I can smell it. It smells like old pennies and a thunderstorm. Oh God, it sees me. I thought this job was gonna be the easiest paycheck of my life. I mean, look at the stats. Abandoned since 2008. Power cut to 90% of the building. No merchandise left to steal. Just 1 million square feet of dust, dead pigeons, and that heavy, suffocating silence you only find in places where thousands of people used to be happy. The hiring manager, a guy who looked like he hadn't slept since the Bush administration, didn't even interview me. He just checked my pulse, handed me a flashlight that weighed 5 pounds, and slid a clipboard across the desk. He didn't say good luck, he just said, don't lose the paper. I'm sitting in the security office now. It smells like ozone and stale coffee. The monitors are buzzing with that static snow that makes your eyes water if you stare too long. And I'm looking at the paper. It's a laminated sheet, yellowed at the edges, stained with something that looks worryingly like dried iron. There is no company header, no HR logo, just typed text, Courier New font, clearly written on a typewriter, not a computer. It says General Safety Protocols, but someone crossed that out with a Sharpie and scrawled simply the rules. I'm going to read them to you, not because I think you can help me, but because if they find my phone, I want someone to know why I stopped answering. Rule number 1. Regarding the auditory environment and the public address system, the main power to the PA system was severed in 2010, physically severed. The wires were pulled from the walls. However, the mall has a memory. If you hear static, that is normal. It is just the building settling. If you hear footsteps on the floor above you, that is also normal. It is just the expansion of old metal beams cooling in the night air. But if you hear music, specifically the song distinctively known as Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears, you must immediately stop whatever you are doing. Do not move, do not breathe loudly, do not look up at the ceiling speakers. The rule says that the acoustics in the mall act as a sonar system during this song. If the music sounds distant and tinny, you are safe, but you must remain frozen until the track ends. If the music sounds crisp, clear, and loud, as if the band is playing right next to you, close your eyes. It says here that they are looking for an audience. If you acknowledge the music, you become the audience, and the concert does not end until they are satisfied. The previous guard, a guy named Miller, noted in the margins here, do not hum along. God help you, do not hum along. Rule number 2. Regarding the north atrium and the carousel. The carousel is covered by a heavy canvas tarp. It has been chained shut for a decade. During your rounds, you are required to shine your flashlight on the mechanism to ensure no squatters have taken up residence inside the machinery pit. However, you must never count the horses. I'll repeat that because the text is bolded and underlined twice. Never count the horses. There are supposed to be 12 horses on the ride, 6 white, 3 brown, and 3 black. If you sweep your light over them and you count 13 figures under that tarp, walk away. Do not run. Running triggers a predator response. Walk at a brisk, purposeful pace toward the south exit. The rule explains that the 13th figure is not a horse. It is described as a mimic that folds itself into shapes to blend in. It struggles with joints and limbs, which is why it prefers the rigid shape of a carousel animal. If you count 13, it knows you have seen it. It knows it has failed its camouflage, and it will unfold itself to correct the mistake. There is a handwritten note next to this one too. It says, "If you see a horse with human teeth, it is already too late to walk away." Rule number 3. Regarding the food court and consumption of outside food. You are permitted to eat your lunch in the security office. You are permitted in the parking lot. You are absolutely forbidden from consuming food within the main concourse or the food court area between the hours of 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. This is referred to as the feeding hour. The logic here is disturbingly practical. The mall creates a psychic ecosystem. It remembers the hunger of millions of shoppers. At 3 a.m., the smell of the food court changes. You will stop smelling mold and rot, and you will start smelling fresh cinnamon rolls, greasy pepperoni pizza, and buttery popcorn. It will smell better than any food you have ever experienced in your life. The rule states that this scent is a pheromone trap. If you are eating your own food during this time, the smell of the mall will mix with yours. It will taint it, and once you ingest that taint, you become part of the food chain. The note says that Miller, the guy before me, lost a sandwich wrapper in the atrium once. The next night, he found the wrapper on his desk, perfectly folded. Inside was a piece of meat that looked like it had been chewed and spat back out. He said it was raw. He said it was human. Rule number 4. Regarding the mannequins in the Anchor store, formerly the JCPenney. The shutters to this store are rusted open about 3 feet. You can crawl under, but you are advised not to unless there is a fire. If you must enter the Anchor store, keep your flashlight aimed at the floor. Navigate by the tiles. Do not shine your light at face level. The mannequins in this store were never removed during the liquidation. There are hundreds of them, a labyrinth of plastic limbs and blank faces. The rule states that their positions are not static. They move when they are not being observed. This is quantum locking, similar to the observer effect in physics, but biological. If you shine your light on a mannequin and its head is turned away from you, you are fine. If you shine your light and it is facing you, do not break eye contact. Back away slowly. If you blink, it will move closer. If you turn around, it will be right behind you. The scariest part of this rule is the addendum at the bottom. It says, occasionally, you will see a mannequin that looks exactly like you. It will be wearing your security uniform. It will have your face. If you see this mannequin, do not panic. It is a shell waiting to be filled. Just leave the store immediately and lock the security office door. Do not look in a mirror for the rest of your shift. If you look in a mirror after seeing your double, you might find that your reflection is lagging a split second behind you. And if your reflection stops moving, you are no longer the one in control. Rule number 5. This is the last one. It is written in red ink. The typing is messy, like the person writing it was shaking. Rule number 5. Regarding the night manager. There is no night manager employed by the security company. There is no supervisor who checks on you during the shift. You are alone. However, at some point between 2 a.m. and sunrise, the landline phone in the security office will ring. It is an old rotary phone, heavy black plastic. It is not connected to a wall jack. The cord is cut. When it rings, you must answer it. If you do not answer it, the ringing will stop and the door to the office will open. You do not want the door to open. When you pick up the receiver, you will hear a voice. It will sound like static washing over gravel. It will ask you a question. Usually, it asks for a status report. Sometimes it asks if you have checked the locks. You must answer politely. You must call him sir. You must tell him that the mall is secure. But here is the catch. Here is the part that is making my hands sweat so much I can barely hold this paper. The rule says, do not lie to the night manager. He knows everything that happens in his mall. If you missed a round, tell him. If you fell asleep, tell him. If you stole a candy bar from the vending machine, tell him. If you lie and he catches you, he will fire you. That sounds funny, right? Being fired? The note at the bottom explains it. Being fired by the night manager does not mean you lose your job. It means you are terminated from the contract of existence. It means you become part of the inventory. The note says, look at the mannequins in the JCPenney again. Look closely at their eyes. Some of them look terrified. Those were the guards who lied. The phone is ringing. I'm looking at it right now. The black rotary phone on the desk. The cord is dangling, severed, swaying slightly in the draft. It's ringing, a shrill mechanical scream that is drilling into my skull. I have to answer it. I missed a round earlier. I was too scared to go near the carousel. I counted 13 horses and I ran. I broke the rule. I ran. If I tell him I ran, he might let me go. But if I lie, I'm going to pick up the phone now. If you're listening to this and you ever see a job listing for Willow Creek Mall, keep scrolling. Please, just keep scrolling. Hello? Yes, sir. This is the night watchman, reporting for duty. No, sir. Nothing to report. Everything is quiet. Why is the line dead? Why did the office door just click open? Oh God. It's one of the horses. It's standing in the doorway, and it's smiling. The air inside the Ridgeview Mall doesn't smell like rot. You would expect rot. You would expect the smell of dead rats in the walls or mold blooming in the damp ceiling tiles of the food court. But it doesn't smell like that. It smells like ozone. It smells like hot dust and electricity, preserving a time that passed 20 years ago. It smells like the static on a television screen when the channel cuts out. I clocked in at midnight. The transition from the outside world to the interior of the mall is jarring. Outside, there are crickets, the distant hum of the highway, the wind and the overgrown ornamental trees. Inside, there is a silence so heavy it feels like pressure against your eardrums. It's a vacuum, the kind of silence that amplifies your own heartbeat until you start to wonder if the rhythm is coming from your chest or from the floor beneath your feet. My flashlight beam cuts through the gloom of the main atrium. This is the part of the job that nobody prepares you for. They tell you about the intruders. They tell you about the copper thieves or the kids looking for a place to get high. They don't tell you about the architecture. They don't tell you that a building designed to hold 5,000 people feels hostile when it is empty. The geometry is wrong. The escalators rise up like skeletal rib cages into a second floor that is swallowed by darkness. The skylights above are covered in years of grime, turning the moonlight into a sickly, bruised purple haze that barely reaches the tiled floor. I started my patrol near the south entrance. That's where the old department store used to be. The anchors, that's what they called them. Big box stores that anchored them all. Now it's just a cavernous mouth with the metal shutters pulled halfway down. I abide by the logic of the list, the rules. I have the paper folded in my breast pocket, right over my heart, as if it can act as armor. Rule number 2 says to ignore the reflections in the store windows if they don't match your movements. I try not to look at the glass at all. Walking past the empty storefronts is a lesson in psychology. The stores are gutted, mostly, just exposed drywall and metal studs. But some still have their signage. Faded posters for sales that ended in 2004, pictures of smiling families wearing clothes that haven't been in style for 2 decades. Their smiles look predatory in the beam of my maglite. They look too wide. The sound of my boots on the terrazzo floor is a sharp clack, clack, clack. It echoes. The echo takes a fraction of a second too long to return to me. It sounds like someone is walking 10 paces behind me, matching my gait perfectly. I stop. The echo stops. I wait. Silence. Just the hum. The hum is always there. It's the sound of the building breathing. The HVA system is technically off, but the air still moves. It circulates. It drags dust motes through the stagnant atmosphere. I keep walking. I have to check the perimeter of the food court. This is the most liminal space of them all. A place designed for consumption, for noise, for the clatter of plastic trays and the screaming of toddlers. Now, the chairs are stacked on the tables in irregular pyramids. I shine my light across the sea of tables. The shadows cast by the chair legs look like tangled limbs. There is a smell here, faint, like burnt popcorn and floor wax. It shouldn't be here. There hasn't been a kernel popped in this building since the Bush administration. But the scent is distinct. It triggers a sense of nostalgia that immediately curdles into nausea. It's a trap, a sensory lure. I keep my eyes forward. I don't look at the dark corners of the Sparrow. I don't look into the service corridor behind the Panda Express. Rule number 4 was specific about the food court. If you smell cooking, walk faster. Do not investigate. I walk faster. The air feels colder near the center of the mall. This is where the fountain used to be. It's dry now, a concrete basin filled with trash and pennies that have turned green with oxidation. But as I pass it, I swear I hear the trickle of water. It's faint. Drip, drip, splash. I shine the light into the basin, dry as a bone. The sound persists. It's coming from the air itself. It's coming from the acoustic sweet spot where the dome of the ceiling focuses all the sound in the building. I grip the flashlight tighter. My knuckles are white. I am a rational man. I served in the military. I have worked night shifts at shipyards and impound lots. I know what fear is. Fear is a biological reaction to danger. But this isn't fear. This is dread. Fear is a reaction to something present. Dread is the anticipation of something that hasn't happened yet. I reach the central kiosk. It used to sell cell phone cases or cheap jewelry. Now it stands like a monolith in the center of the walkway. And there they are, the mannequins. They were left behind when the clothing store on the second level liquidated. For some reason, management moved them down here, stored them in a cluster near the kiosk. There are 12 of them. They are the old style, not the headless ones or the abstract ones. These have faces. They have painted eyes and synthetic wigs that have matted over the years. Their skin is a chipped beige plaster. Some are missing hands. One is missing the lower half of its jaw. I have to walk past them. It's the only way to the north wing. I keep the beam of the flashlight low, aimed at their feet. I don't want to see their faces. I don't want to see if the angle of their heads has changed since my last round an hour ago. The rule. Rule number 3. Never turn your back on the mannequins if you are within 10 feet of them. Back away slowly. I skirt around the edge of the walkway, pressing my back against the shuttered gate of a shoe store. I keep my eyes on the cluster of plastic bodies. They stand in a rigid, unnatural social circle, as if they were frozen in the middle of a conversation. The light flickers. My heart hammers against my ribs. The flashlight is an LED. It shouldn't flicker. It has fresh batteries. It flickers again, a strobe effect. In the brief moments of darkness, the afterimage of the mannequins burns into my retina. Flash, they are standing there. Darkness. Flash, was the one in the blue dress closer? Darkness. Flash, the one without a jaw is facing me now. I don't run. Running triggers the prey drive. That's what the previous guard told me before he quit. He didn't say it like a joke. He said it like a man giving instructions on how to survive a bear encounter. You don't run. You show dominance. You show that you belong here. Security check, I announce. My voice sounds thin and pathetic in the vastness of the atrium. Everything is clear. I am lying to the room. Nothing is clear. The air is thick with static. The hair on my arms is standing up. I can feel the gaze of the inanimate objects. It's a physical sensation, like a prickling heat on the back of my neck. I back away until I am 20 feet out, then 30. Once I cross the threshold of the tiling pattern change, I turn and walk briskly toward the north wing. The north wing is darker. The skylights here are covered by tarps from a roof repair that was never finished. It is a tunnel of shadows. This is where the atmosphere shifts from observation to aggression. The silence here isn't empty, it's waiting. I pass a mirror on a pillar, a full-length mirror meant for people to check their outfits. I see myself. I see the uniform, the badge, the flashlight, but the face in the mirror looks tired, older, and for a split second, the eyes in the reflection don't blink when I do. I look away, ignore the reflection. Rule number 2. I am sweating now. It's cold in the mall, barely 50 degrees, but sweat is trickling down my spine. I hear a sound from the second floor. It's the sound of a gate rattling, the metal accordion gates that lock up the stores. It sounds like someone grabbed the metal lattice and shook it violently for exactly 2 seconds. Clang, rattle, clang. Then silence. I freeze. I shine the light up toward the balcony. The railing casts long jail bar shadows across the ceiling. "Hello?" I call out. No answer. But the silence that follows is different.
It's not the vacuum silence of the entrance. It's a suppressed silence. The kind of quiet that happens when someone stops breathing so you won't hear them. I have to go up there. It's the job. If there is an intruder, I have to log it. I have to drive them out. I approach the service stairs. I never take the escalator. Rule number 5, never use the escalator if it's not moving, and never use it if it is moving on its own. The service stairwell is concrete and painted a utilitarian gray. The door is heavy. I push it open and the hinges scream. The sound is excruciatingly loud. It echoes up the shaft like a gunshot. I climb. My boots scuff on the grit. I reach the second floor landing. I push the door open and step out onto the mezzanine. The view from here is dizzying. I can see the whole length of the mall. The dark shapes of the kiosks below look like sunken ships in a dark ocean. The air up here is warmer. Heat rises, but it smells different. It smells like copper, like old pennies and wet iron. I walk toward the source of the sound. It came from the direction of the old cinema. The movie theater has been closed the longest. The entrance is boarded up with plywood, but there's a small access door for maintenance. The carpet up here is patterned with geometric shapes, neon squiggles and triangles that glow faintly under my UV light. It's a path designed to disorient. I see the gate that rattled. It's the entrance to a jewelry store that was stripped bare years ago. The gate is still vibrating, just barely, a subtle tremor in the metal. There is no wind up here, no draft. I shine my light into the empty store. Nothing but dust bunnies and a single left-behind velvet display stand in the shape of a neck. I check my watch, 02:35 a.m. The witching hour isn't for another 30 minutes, but the building feels like it's waking up. I get a radio check from base. The static burst scares me more than the silence. Unit 1, status check. The dispatcher's voice is garbled, sounding like it's coming from underwater. I grab the mic on my shoulder. Unit 1, North Wing, second level, all clear. Copy, the dispatcher says. Then a pause. Unit 1, why are you whispering? I freeze. I didn't realize I was whispering. Sound carries in here, I say, my voice trembling slightly. Just keeping it quiet. Copy. Check the service corridors and return to base. You've got interference on your line. Sounds like breathing. My blood runs cold. I lower the radio. I am alone. I am the only living thing in a 2 million square foot structure. I turn to head back to the stairs. That's when I see it. Across the atrium, on the opposite balcony, standing perfectly still in the shadow of a pillar, a mannequin.
But there are no mannequins on the second floor. They are all downstairs. I just passed them. I shine my light across the gap. The beam hits the pillar. Nothing. Just the shadow. But I know what I saw. A beige, hairless shape, watching. I walk faster. My stride is long and urgent. I need to get back to the office. I need to get behind a locked door and watch the CCTV monitors. The monitors are safe. The reality on the screen is filtered. It's digital. It's not raw like this. I reach the stairs. I descend 2 steps at a time. When I hit the ground floor, the atmosphere has shifted again. The ozone smell is gone, replaced by the smell of something sweet, sickly sweet, like rotting flowers. I pass the food court again. The chairs. I stop. The pyramid of chairs on the 3rd table to the left. It's different. When I walked past 10 minutes ago, the top chair was facing the entrance. Now, it's facing the exit. It's a small detail, a tiny change in the geometry of the room. But in a place this static, any change is a scream. I don't investigate. I remember the rule. I walk. I march. My heels strike the floor with a rhythm that sounds like a clock ticking down. I can feel the space contracting behind me. It feels like the hallway is getting longer in front of me and shorter behind me. The vertigo of the liminal space, the backrooms effect. I focus on the exit sign. The red glow is the only real color in this world of gray and blue. I reach the security office. I punch the code into the keypad. The beep is loud. The lock clicks. I step inside and slam the door. I lock the deadbolt. I lean my back against the metal door and slide down until I hit the floor. I am safe, for now. I look up at the bank of monitors. 16 screens showing gray, grainy views of the empty mall. Screen 4 shows the central kiosk. The mannequins. There are 12 of them. I count them on the screen. 1, 2, 3. Wait. I count again. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 13. One of them is standing a little apart from the group. It is looking directly up at the camera. It is wearing a security uniform. I look down at my own chest, at the badge. I look back at the screen. The figure on the monitor raises a hand and waves, a stiff, jerky motion. I sit in the office, surrounded by the hum of the hard drives, and I wait for the sun to come up. This is only the first shift, and the mall has 5 rules. I've only broken 1, but I think the mall just made a new one just for me. I never thought a silence could be this loud. You know that feeling when you turn off an old TV, but you can still feel the static electricity in the air? That high-pitched whine that sits right at the base of your skull? That is what the mall sounds like at 3 a.m. It is a silence that wants to be filled. And if you are not careful, if you break the rules, it fills that silence with things that should not exist. I need to get this down while my hands are still steady enough to type. If you are reading this, you are probably thinking about taking that graveyard shift at the old sprawling complex off the interstate. The pay is good. The solitude seems nice. You think you can handle it because you binged a few horror podcasts and you know not to open the door for the black-eyed kids. But you don't know this place. You don't know the geometry of a dead mall. I was doing my rounds in Sector 4. That is the East Wing, the one anchored by the department store that went bankrupt in 2008. It is the darkest part of the building. The skylights haven't been cleaned in a decade, so the moonlight comes through looking like dirty gray water. I was feeling good, cocky even. I had survived 3 weeks. I had memorized the list. Rule number 1, never enter the fitting rooms after midnight. Rule number 2, if the mannequins change distinct positions, acknowledge them with a nod, but do not speak. Rule number 3, keep your flashlight aimed at the floor, never the ceiling. And rule number 4, the one I just broke. If you hear footsteps matching your own pace, but slightly out of sync, do not stop. And whatever you do, do not look back. It started near the dead fountain in the center of the atrium. The fountain is dry, filled with trash and pennies from wishes that never came true. I was walking the perimeter, checking the mag locks on the main entrance doors. My boots on the terrazzo floor made a sharp, rhythmic clacking sound. Clack, clack, clack. Then I heard it. Clack, clack, clack. It was an echo. That is what I told myself. It is a big, hollow building. Acoustics are weird. I kept walking. I tightened my grip on my flashlight. The beam was shaking just a little bit. Clack, clack, clack. The delay was getting longer. An echo happens instantly. This sound was lagging behind me by half a second. It sounded heavy, wet, like someone walking in boots filled with water. My heart started hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. My brain, that stupid logical part of my brain that is going to get me killed, tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a pipe leaking. Maybe it was the building settling. But deep down, in the lizard part of my brain that hasn't evolved since we were prey on the savannah, I knew. I was being hunted. I remembered the rule. Do not stop. Do not look back. I picked up the pace. I didn't run, not yet. Running implies you are afraid, and these things, whatever they are, they feed on that frequency. I speed walked toward the corridor that leads to the security office. Behind me, the sound changed. It stopped being an echo. It started getting closer. Slap, slap, slap. It wasn't boots anymore. It sounded like bare feet hitting the cold tile. Big, heavy, flat feet. And it was fast. I could feel the air pressure change behind me. You know that sensation when someone is standing right behind you in line at the grocery store? That heat radiating off a body? I felt that cold, dead static pressing against my spine. The hair on my arms stood up so straight it hurt. The smell hit me next. It didn't smell like rot or death. It smelled like ozone and burning hair. It smelled like a car crash. I was 20 feet from the corridor. Just 20 feet. I could have made it. I should have made it. But then I heard the voice. It wasn't a monster's growl. It wasn't a demon's screech. It was my voice. Hey, wait up, it said. It sounded exactly like me. Not me on a recording, but me speaking from inside my own head. It was casual, bored even. Hey, you dropped your keys. I checked my belt automatically. My keys were there. I knew they were there. I knew it was a trick. I knew the rule. But it was instinct, a purely human reflex. Someone calls your name, someone sounds helpful, someone sounds like you, and you react. I stopped, and I turned my head. I looked back. The atrium was empty. That is the worst part. That is the part that is making me shake so hard I can barely hit the keys on this laptop. There was no monster. There was no slavering beast. There was no ghost. There was just the empty mall. But it was wrong. The perspective was stretched. The hallway looked miles long, like looking through the wrong end of a telescope. The shadows weren't falling in the right direction. The light from the dirty skylights was bending, pooling in the center of the floor like quicksilver. And standing in the middle of that pooling light, about 30 feet away, was a mannequin. We have hundreds of mannequins in this place. Most of them are missing limbs or heads. But this one was whole. It was wearing a security uniform. It was wearing my uniform. It didn't have a face, just a smooth plastic oval where the features should be. But as I watched, frozen in that terrible realization, the plastic started to indent. 2 holes for eyes, a slit for a mouth. It pushed in, like someone pressing their thumbs into soft clay. Then the mouth tore open. It didn't open like a jaw. It tore like fabric. "Found you," it said. It spoke with my voice, but the volume was all wrong. It was deafening. It boomed through the atrium, shaking the glass in the storefronts, vibrating the floor beneath my feet. Panic, cold and sharp, finally snapped me out of my trance. I didn't think anymore. I just ran. I sprinted toward the security corridor. I heard the thing behind me move. It didn't walk. It didn't run. It sounded like a bag of wet bones being dragged across the floor at high speed. A terrible, friction-heavy slide. Shh, thump. Shh, thump. I burst through the double doors of the corridor and slammed my body against the crash bar. I fumbled for my key card. My hands were slick with sweat. I dropped the card. "No, no," I whispered. From the other side of the doors, I heard a thud.
then another. The thing was throwing itself against the metal. The doors bowed inward. The glass-reinforced wire mesh window cracked. A spiderweb fracture appeared right at eye level. I scrabbled on the floor, my fingernails scraping against the linoleum. I found the card. I snatched it up and swiped it at the reader. Beep. Red light. Invalid entry. Come on, I screamed. Thud. The doorframe groaned. Dust fell from the ceiling tiles. I swiped again, slower this time, forcing my hand to be steady while my entire world was collapsing. Beep. Green light. The maglock disengaged with a heavy clunk. I threw the inner door open, dove inside, and slammed it shut, engaging the deadbolt and the manual slide lock. I backed away, hyperventilating. I stared at the door. Silence returned. I waited. 1 minute. 2 minutes. Then, a soft scratching sound, like a fingernail gently tapping on the other side of the wood. Tap, tap, tap. I'm still here, my voice whispered from the other side. I'm just waiting for you to look again. I ran to the main security hub. I locked that door too. I pushed the heavy filing cabinet in front of it. I sat down at the desk and pulled up the camera feeds. That was my second mistake. I looked at the monitor for Sector 4, the atrium. The mannequin was gone. The pool of distorted light was gone. I cycled through the cameras. Sector 1, clear. Sector 2, clear. Sector 3, clear. Then I checked the camera for the hallway right outside the security office door. The camera feed is black. It's not off. It's functioning. The timestamp is ticking, but the lens is blocked. Something is pressing its face directly against the camera lens. All I can see is smooth beige plastic, slightly out of focus. And then the plastic moved. It blinked. It knows I'm watching. It knows I looked. I broke the rule. The breach is confirmed. The separation between the safe zones and the dead zones is gone. I can hear the scratching on the door again, louder this time. It's digging. It's peeling the wood away layer by layer. I don't know how much time I have. I don't know if the sun coming up will stop it. The rules say to survive until 6 a.m., but the rules also said don't look back. I voided the contract. If you find this recording, if you find this log, do not take the job. Stay away from the mall. And for the love of God, if you are ever walking alone in the dark and you hear your own footsteps echoing a little too late, keep your eyes forward. Don't let curiosity kill you. It's not worth it. The scratching has stopped. Now, the doorknob is turning. It's turning slowly. It's unlocked. I locked it. I know I locked it. Oh God, it has my keys. When it asked if I dropped them, I checked my belt, but I never actually looked to see if they were there. I just felt the weight. The weight of the radio, not the keys. The door is opening. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't look at the screen. Stop the video. Stop listening. It's looking at me. It has my face. It was rule number 4 that I messed up. I know that now. I'm writing this on the back of a crumpled receipt I found in the security booth, my hands shaking so bad the ink is barely legible. If you ever take the graveyard shift at the Rolling Acres Mall, or any dead mall for that matter, you need to listen to me. You need to understand that silence isn't empty. In a place like this, silence is a signal. Rule number 4 was simple on paper. It read, if the Muzak stops playing between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., you have exactly 60 seconds to hide. Do not lock yourself in a room. They have keys. Do not run for the exit. The glass doors won't open. Hide among the merchandise. Become part of the stock. And whatever you do, do not breathe until the music starts again. I was patrolling the second floor, right near the old food court. The smell of rancid fryer grease and dust is always thicker up there. I was checking the gate on the abandoned Sparrow when it happened. The speakers, which usually hum with that distorted, slow-motion 80s synth pop, just cut out. It wasn't a fade out, it was a hard cut, like someone severed the wire with bolt cutters. The silence that followed hit me harder than a physical blow.
It was heavy, pressurized. The air pressure in the atrium dropped instantly, popping my ears. I checked my watch, 2:14 a.m. I had 60 seconds. Panic is a funny thing. You think you'll scream or freeze, but if you've worked these kinds of jobs long enough, if you've done the night shift at those lonely gas stations off the interstate or spent time in fire watch towers, you know that panic is fuel. I didn't think, I moved. I sprinted toward the anchor store on the south end. It used to be a JCPenney. The metal gate was halfway up, a jagged mouth of rusted steel. I slid under it, the concrete scraping the skin off my elbows, but I didn't feel it. I scrambled to my feet, my flashlight beam cutting frantic arcs through the dark. 40 seconds left. The department store was a labyrinth of shadows. Naked mannequins stood in clusters, their smooth, featureless faces turned toward the aisles. In the dark, with the flashlight jerking around, they looked like they were moving, jerking their heads, reaching out. I had to ignore them. I had to find a rack. 30 seconds. I could hear it now, from the atrium behind me. It wasn't footsteps. Footsteps imply feet, shoes, a human cadence. This was a wet slapping sound, like slabs of raw meat being thrown against the tiled floor. Slap, drag, slap. It was fast, much faster than a human could run. I dove into the center of the store, toward the winter clearance section. The air here was stale, smelling of mothballs and old wool. I found a circular rack stuffed with heavy trench coats. I didn't hesitate. I pushed through the hangers, burying myself in the center of the rack. I pulled my legs up to my chest, curling into the tightest ball I could manage, surrounded by the scratchy fabric of unsold coats. 10 seconds. I killed my flashlight. The darkness was absolute. The only light came from the faint, sickly orange glow of the street lamps outside, filtering through the boarded-up windows far across the store. 0. The silence stretched. I clamped my hand over my mouth and nose. I squeezed my eyes shut. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard, I was terrified the sound alone would give me away. It felt like a bird trying to batter its way out of a cage. Then, the smell hit me. It wafted through the heavy wool coats. It didn't smell like a monster. It didn't smell like death. It smelled like perfume. That cheap, overpowering floral perfume old ladies used to wear in the 90s. But underneath the lavender and chemicals, there was something else. Something coppery. The smell of dried blood and ozone. The slapping sound had stopped. I waited. My lungs were beginning to burn. My body screamed for oxygen, but I held it. Rule number 4, do not breathe. Then I heard the voice. It was right outside the rack. Marco. It wasn't a monster's voice. It was mine. It was a perfect recording of my own voice, but distorted, as if played back on a cassette tape that had been left in the sun too long. The pitch wavered up and down. Marco, the thing mimicked again. It was trying to get me to play. It was trying to trigger the reflex. Polo, that's what you say. You hear Marco, you say polo. It's ingrained in us since childhood. I bit down on my tongue. I bit down hard enough to taste salt. The coats rustled. Something was brushing against the outside of the rack. I could feel the hangers vibrate against my shoulder. A long, thin finger, or what felt like a finger, traced the fabric of the coat directly in front of my face. I was separated from it by 2 inches of wool and polyester. "Come out, Dave," it whispered. This time the voice changed. It sounded like my supervisor. It sounded like the guy who hired me. But the cadence was wrong. It was too flat, too clinical, like a GPS trying to sound affectionate. "We have a spill on aisle 4. We need a cleanup." My chest was on fire. My diaphragm was spasming. The urge to gasp, to suck in just one tiny sip of air was overpowering. It was a physical torture. My vision started to swim with black spots. The thing moved. I could hear the wet slap of its feet circling the rack. It was hunting. It knew I was close. It could probably smell the adrenaline leaking out of my pores. It stopped again, right behind me. "I know you are in there," it hissed. This voice was new. It was a guttural, wet sound.
The sound of a throat filled with fluid. I can hear your heart, little rabbit. Thump, thump, thump. It slammed its hand against the rack. The metal structure groaned. The coat swung violently, hitting me in the face. I didn't flinch. I was a statue. I was dead. I was just another mannequin in the pile. Tears leaked from my eyes, hot and stinging, but I didn't make a sound. I was deep in the zone now. That state of mind you get into when you realize death is standing 3 feet away. The terror loops back around and becomes a cold, hard clarity. If I breathe, I die. If I move, I die. The thing let out a sound of frustration. It was a high-pitched whine, like a dog that's been kicked. Then, silence. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I held that breath until my body started to convulse involuntarily. Suddenly, a crackle. Static. And then, the sweet, terrible sound of synth-pop drums. Baby, I'm ready to go. The muzak blasted back to life. It was louder than before, echoing through the empty department store like a choir of angels. I gasped. I sucked in air like a drowning man breaking the surface. The noise was tremendous, a jagged, desperate wheeze. I waited for the attack. I waited for the claws to tear through the coats. But nothing happened. I stayed in that rack for another hour. I listened to the entire loop of the playlist. Tears were streaming down my face, soaking into the collar of my uniform. I didn't leave until the sun started to come up, casting gray light through the cracks in the ceiling. When I finally crawled out, my legs were numb. I fell onto the dusty tile floor. I looked at the rack I had been hiding in. On the floor, circling the rack, were wet, black footprints. But they weren't shaped like feet. They were shaped like hands. Long, spindly hands with too many fingers. And on the beige coat directly in front of where my face had been, there was a stain. A black, oily smear right at eye level. It had been looking right at me. It knew exactly where I was. It just couldn't see me as long as I followed the rules. I'm back in the booth now. My shift ends in 20 minutes. I'm quitting. I don't care about the paycheck. I don't care about the contract. But I have to warn the next guy. Because when I was walking back to the booth, passing the mannequins in the main atrium, I noticed something. Yesterday, there were 5 mannequins in the display window of the Gap. Today, there are 6. And the new one is wearing a security guard's uniform. If you take this job, memorize the rules. But more importantly, trust your gut. If the silence gets too loud, if the shadows get too long, just run. Don't worry about the money, just run. Because in the dark, in this mall, hide and seek isn't a game. It's a menu selection.
And you are the main course. I stared at the digital numbers on my watch, 5:59 a.m. The red digits seemed to pulse in the darkness of the security booth, mocking me. My hand was hovering over the biometric scanner, shaking so hard I could barely keep my fingers straight. I could smell it again, that sickly sweet scent of rotting cotton candy and ozone that had been plaguing me since 3 in the morning. It was right behind the heavy metal door of the office. You would think the last minute of a shift is the easiest. In any normal job, it's the moment you mentally check out. You're already thinking about eggs and bacon, or the warmth of your bed, or the drive home. But here, in the hollowed-out carcass of the Greystone Mall, the last minute is the most dangerous. That was rule number 5, remember? Never assume the shift is over until the sun hits the pavement outside. Not the glass, the pavement. I held my breath. The silence in the mall wasn't empty, it was heavy. It pressed against the reinforced glass of the booth like water deep underwater. I could feel the pressure building in my ears. Somewhere, down near the old food court, the distinct sound of a metal chair dragging across tile echoed. Specifically, the sound of a chair being pulled out for a guest. I didn't look at the monitors. Rule 2. If you hear movement in the food court after 4 a.m., do not look at the cameras. If you don't see them, they can't see you. At least, that's what the crumpled note left by the previous guy said. I squeezed my eyes shut. Just 60 seconds. Just 60 seconds until I could run. The dragging sound stopped. Then came the footsteps. Wet, slapping footsteps. Like someone walking barefoot with soaked socks. Slap, slap, slap. Getting closer to the security office. 59 seconds. The air in the room dropped 10 degrees. I could see my breath fogging up in front of me. The handle of the office door jiggled. It wasn't a frantic attempt to get in. It was a polite test, a gentle turn, just to see if I'd been stupid enough to leave it unlocked. I gripped the desk, my knuckles turning white. Then the watch beeped. 6:00. The handle stopped moving. The wet footsteps didn't walk away. They just ceased to exist. The oppressive weight in the air lifted instantly, replaced by the stale, dusty smell of an abandoned building. I didn't wait. I grabbed my keys and the logbook. I didn't look at the monitors. I didn't look at the dark hallway leading to the restrooms. I just moved. Walking to the exit felt like walking through a dream. You know that feeling when you have a high fever and the dimensions of your room feel wrong? Too big and too small at the same time? The main corridor of the mall stretched out like an infinite tunnel. The shattered skylights above were letting in a gray, bruised-looking light. Dawn. I kept my eyes forward. Peripheral vision is your enemy in places like this. If you focus on the storefronts, you start to notice things. You notice that the mannequins in the old department store are standing in different poses than they were last night. You notice that their plastic heads are all turned toward the main walkway, watching you leave. I walked fast, the echo of my boots sounding like gunshots in the quiet. I reached the main glass doors. They were chained shut from the inside, just as I'd left them. My hands fumbled with the padlock. The cold metal bit into my skin. Behind me, from the second-floor balcony, a voice called out. "Hey, can you help me? I'm lost." It was a normal voice, a young man's voice. It sounded like someone you'd meet at a grocery store. It sounded like safety. It triggered every instinct I had to turn around and help. But I froze. I knew that voice. It was the same voice I'd heard on the radio at 2 a.m., the same voice that mimicked the sound of my supervisor. I didn't turn around. I jammed the key into the padlock, twisting it violently. The lock popped. I shoved the chains aside, the metal clattering loudly. "Please," the voice said. It was closer now, right behind my left ear. "Just look at me." I threw the doors open and stumbled out into the cool morning air. My boots hit the cracked asphalt of the parking lot. The sun, the actual sun. It was cresting over the tree line, blinding and beautiful. I slammed the mall doors shut and locked them from the outside, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Through the reflection of the glass, I saw him. Just for a second. A figure standing right on the other side of the door. He didn't have a face, just a smooth patch of skin where eyes and a mouth should be. He was wearing a security uniform, my uniform. I turned and ran to my car. I didn't care about dignity. I didn't care about looking stoic. I scrambled into the driver's seat of my beat-up sedan and locked the doors. I checked the back seat. Empty. I checked the floorboards. Empty. I turned the key. The engine sputtered, wheezed, and then roared to life. I peeled out of that parking lot faster than I've ever driven in my life. I didn't look in the rearview mirror until I was 3 miles down the highway. The drive home was a blur of exhaustion and paranoia. I kept expecting the road to loop back. I kept expecting to see the mall rising up over the horizon again. Every time I passed a patch of woods, I thought I saw pale, elongated shapes moving between the trees. The world felt quiet,
too quiet. The radio was just static, no matter what station I tried.
I stopped at a gas station about 20 minutes away from the mall. I needed coffee. I needed to see a human being. I walked inside. The fluorescent lights buzzed. There was a clerk behind the counter, a guy in his 50s with grease stains on his shirt. "Rough night?" he asked. I nodded, grabbing a black coffee. "You have no idea." He stared at me. His eyes didn't blink enough. "Working at the mall?" I froze. I hadn't told him where I worked. I wasn't wearing my badge. "How did you know?" I asked, my hand hovering near the door. He smiled. It was a wide smile. Too wide. It showed too many teeth. "You smell like it," he said. "You smell like old time." I left the coffee on the counter. I didn't wait for change. I got back in my car and drove. I didn't stop again until I was in my driveway. My apartment looked exactly as I left it, but it felt alien. I walked inside and bolted the door. I threw my uniform into the trash bag and tied it up tight. I stood in the shower for 45 minutes, scrubbing my skin until it was raw, trying to wash off the smell of ozone and rot. But here is the thing. Here is why I'm writing this down now, while my hands are still shaking. I sat down at my kitchen table to log my hours. I opened the company app on my phone. I needed to make sure I got paid for this nightmare. The app loaded. I went to the schedule tab. It was blank. I refreshed the page. Still blank. I called the number for the security firm, the one I interviewed with, the one that gave me the uniform and the keys. The line rang once, twice. Then a recorded voice picked up. "We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service." I dialed again. Same message. I went to my email to check the offer letter they sent me last week. I searched the sender's name. Nothing. The email was gone. It wasn't in the trash. It wasn't in the spam folder. It just never existed. I sat there in my kitchen, the morning sun streaming through the window, feeling a cold pit open in my stomach. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the physical piece of paper they gave me on the first night, the list of rules. It was just a blank piece of printer paper. I flipped it over. Nothing. I don't understand. I spent 8 hours in that hellhole. I have the bruises on my arm from where I bumped into the railing running from the 3rd floor. I have the mud on my boots. I have the memory of the faceless man in the glass. But according to the world, I was never there. And that's when I noticed the clock on my microwave. When I walked in the door, it was 7:30 a.m. I took a long shower, I made coffee. I've been sitting here for 20 minutes. The microwave clock still says 7:30 a.m. I looked at my watch, the digital watch I used to time my shift. 7:30 a.m. I looked out the window. The sun hasn't moved. The shadows on the street are in the exact same position they were when I parked the car. The birds aren't singing. The traffic noise from the highway has stopped. My phone just buzzed. A single text message from a blocked number. "You forgot to clock out." I'm looking at the front door of my apartment. The deadbolt is sliding open, slowly, from the outside. I'm writing this so you don't make my mistake. If you see an ad for a security job at the Greystone Mall, keep scrolling. Don't call the number, don't go to the interview. Because I don't think I ever left. I think the mall just got bigger. I think the mall is everything now. The door is opening. It smells like rotting cotton candy. Did I survive? I don't think anyone does.